everybody, Wannabe Reviewer here, and welcome back to the Wannabe Podcast, episode 47. Before we begin this week's episode, I just want to throw it out there that although I haven't quite hit the episode 50, 52, or maybe 53, I forget how it works when you do it weekly, but even though I haven't hit the 50-something episode mark, interesting enough, next week marks the 1-year anniversary since I started this podcast. Like I said, if I had done it every week, then I would have been somewhere on episode 52 or 53. I mean, something like that, right? But, unfortunately, I wasn't able to do the podcast every week. I did miss maybe 3 or 4 episodes due to illness and being out of town, that sort of thing. But still, I mean, the fact that I'm on episode 47, the next week will be episode 48. That's incredible, when I started this podcast, I don't know, what kind of made me realize that's even been a year? Someone posted a little, I don't remember if it was a tweet or if it was somewhere on a Reddit or something, but someone posted can you believe it's been a year since the Bowsette meme? And that made me go, wait a minute, Bowsette meme? Year? Wasn't my first episode? Wasn't Bowsette something that I covered? And sure enough, I looked it up, and that's what made me realize that, holy crap, dude, my podcast is coming up on its first, year anniversary. And like I said, even though I did miss maybe 3 or 4 episodes, I've still been pretty consistent basically every week with this. And I don't know, it's just incredible to really step back and think about it, So I will try to talk more next week about the podcast, I'm gonna see if maybe I do something special to celebrate the 1-year anniversary. I'm not too sure yet, but still, in the meantime, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who supported me, everyone who's followed the podcast, up to now. I really appreciate it. I think it's been phenomenal just seeing everyone's input and the way they follow the podcast and the way they comment on different topics I talk about, that sort of thing. So yeah, in the meantime, I just want to say thank you guys. I really appreciate it. It's just like I said, it's just kind of a crazy feeling knowing that I've been doing this for a whole year basically. But that aside, as I said, we'll see about next weekend, what we do to celebrate. But in the meantime, getting back to our usual scheduled program or whatever, turning over to my week, I do feel like I did have kind of a chunky week. I feel like I did do quite a few things. So, let's transfer over to that. First up on the list, as usual, is anime. And as I said during last week or maybe the week before that, we're quickly coming up to the end of this anime season. And so sure enough, some anime have already ended. In the next few weeks, I'll probably talk about some other ones that have ended. But as of this week, there is 2 anime that ended that I have talked about before. So really quickly, I just kind of wanted to go over them again and give my general opinion, about, what I think about them and if I recommend them. So first off on the list, the first anime that I completed this week was Magical Sempai. And for anyone who doesn't remember, Magical Sempai is the anime where each episode is only about 15 minutes long. So it's half the length of a usual anime episode. And it's this comedy anime about this guy. I don't remember why he gets roped into it, but for whatever reason, he runs into, his senpai, who's a magician girl, and she's trying to start up a magic club. And somehow, I don't remember how, he gets roped into joining the club. And so each episode is about his misadventures, or I guess more of her misadventures, and he just plays the straight man, following along with her weird plots, And as the series progresses, we get introduced to more characters. We have 2 other characters who kind of join the cast. One is this Gyaru, I think that's how you say it. Basically, it's the type of girls who are with bleached hair, kind of tan skin, lots of makeup. They tend to act, kind of promiscuous, that sort of thing. And she's joined by her brother, who's this big old chunky boy. And, they're basically street magicians. And so there's kind of a bit of a clash between the magic club because of that. And, basically, I really enjoyed this anime. Is it trashy? Yes. Is it very fan servicey? Yes. Are the characters kind of dumb? Especially those 2 that get added later? Yes, but for whatever reason, I just feel the show really works. Unlike other stuff that's really fan servicey or really dumb, or the characters are very tropey and kind of weird. I'm not gonna talk about it quite yet, but there's an anime that I picked up last week that this friend of mine was begging me to watch it because he was saying that it was such a good show, and I caught up on it. And that show, I'll talk about maybe in 2 or 3 weeks, once it ends. That show is the wrong type of fan servicey and tropey and stupid. That show just doesn't work. I just feel it falls so flat. But for whatever reason, I just feel like Magical Senpai just works. Like, yeah, like I said, it's dumb and the characters are tropey and there's a lot of like dumb jokes at the expense of like the magician girl where like, for whatever reason, she might end up like, I don't know, like in a weird situation that involves like panty shots and stuff. But for whatever reason, like in the context of the show, it works. Like, maybe it's because like the characters are goofy and like it makes sense because they're doing tricks and stuff. Like it makes sense she would get caught in weird situations. And then when you balance that out with our main character who's like the straight man where he's just like watching everything she does and he kind of is always just like shaking his head and kind of like thinking how dumb she is, like it just works, it just feels like it balances it out. So, like I said, is it trashy? Is it fan servicey? Is it kind of dumb? Yes, but I still really enjoy the show. I think the way it puts everything together really works. And not only that, but I did think it was surprisingly kind of cute. I think the relationship between the magician girl and our main character, like you can tell there's kind of like a thing between them, but like he kind of like thinks that she's a little too airheaded. And so whenever he kind of gets impressed with something she does, she kind of messes it up and he kind of backs off like, never mind. But I don't know, a little bit of that like will they, won't they? Like you can kind of tell there's like a thing between them. I thought that was really cute. Likewise, even though he has like a few opportunities to kind of like quit the magic club, he kind of always stays in the club because he doesn't want to disappoint her. So I don't know, I thought like their friendship, their little thing going on, I did think it was surprisingly kind of cute. So there you go, I recommend it. I think if you don't mind stuff that's kind of dumb or trashy, that sort of thing, I think you'll enjoy it. If you can look past that stuff, I think you will enjoy it. I think it's a cute story, and I just think it's a lot of fun. So once again, show is called Magical Senpai. It was 12 episodes, each 15 minutes long, so it is a very short, quick watch. So there you go. Moving on, the other anime that ended earlier this week was the anime called How Heavy Are the Dumbbells You Lift? Now, I don't know how many of you remember me talking about it, because, it was a while ago, but basically, How Heavy Are the Dumbbells You Lift? Focuses on this girl that I guess she notices she's eating a little too much. I think someone points it out, and someone points out that she's getting a little bit chunky. So someone tells her, why don't you hit the gym? And like where our adventure starts is that she goes to a local gym. She thinks it's gonna be like a sports club. She thinks it's gonna be full of like a lot of attractive people just hanging out. But when she gets there, not only is she surprised to see that her student council president is there, and that she's like super into like fitness and she's kind of like obsessed with like muscles. But when she gets there, she realizes that it's like this hardcore pumping iron muscle bros everywhere type of gym. And so it's kind of funny because at first she doesn't really want to join. She's kind of like hesitant, but she does, join the gym and she does get into it. And so basically the episodes, as we progress through the season, it's just about different situations and different workouts and, that sort of thing. And, along the way, they make more, the main character and the student council president, they make more friends, including like a teacher and like a foreign exchange student, like that sort of thing. And, they enter like little competitions and, like I said, it's just about their adventures, like doing different workouts and like different situations. And once again, similar as like the last anime I talked about, I really enjoyed it, and I would recommend it. I think that, people have said there's kind of a genre of anime that they call like cute girls doing like everyday things. And that's a good way to describe this, it's just like cute girls doing, exercising and workouts and like lifting weights and stuff, but they make the show really interesting. Like, I think the humor's pretty good, like their trainer, he's this guy, he looks like a baby-faced normal guy, but then the moment he flexes, like his clothes just rips off, and he is like the most muscle, like he just looks like he's like, I don't know, he looks like he's like a steroid monkey, like it's crazy how buff he gets. But there's like a lot of comedy from him, there's a lot of comedy from like their teacher, who's kind of embarrassed that she's always hanging around like the girls and that like she's old. There's a lot of comedy from just a lot of the workouts and like the difference of like our main character always wanting to eat, and then like she'll do like a huge workout and everyone's impressed, and then she just goes back to eating. Like there's a lot of comedy from that. And the anime itself was interesting, the way they show off all of these exercises and kind of teach you about the human body and different like muscles and stuff. It was really interesting. So I don't know, if you're looking for like a sportsy type anime, or I don't know, if you just kind of want something that maybe will motivate you to work out, I do think it's a very good anime. Like I said, it teaches you quite a bit. It has funny characters. It does have fan service, but it's not like too over the top. It's fan service in the sense of if they're talking about certain muscles and stuff, you'll see the characters posing and like showing off the muscles. So there's fan service, but it's not like too over the top. So I enjoyed the anime. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought it was actually, like I said, kind of educational and stuff. So if this sounds interesting to you, once again, that is called How Heavy Are the Dumbbells You Lift? If it sounds interesting to you, go check it out. Alrighty, moving away from anime, but staying within the realm of animated features, there's this channel that I follow, and there's a channel that he follows. So from one channel, I heard about this other channel, and the channel I'm talking about, it's called Movie Talk with Dan Jensen. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. And not too long ago, he covered a animated movie called Batman Hush. And in the past, I have kind of read, like some of those Batman comics. I believe I did read a little bit of Batman Hush. And when I had heard there was going to be an animated film for it, I was interested to see, how they would adapt it. And so sure enough, after hearing Dan talk about it, I was interested and I kind of wanted to see like my own opinion of it. So sure enough, I watched Batman Hush earlier this week, and I don't know, it's fine, I guess. Like, it's kind of weird because it's not bad, but it's not good either. Like, it's very middle of the road. For anyone who doesn't even know what the story's about, basically, Batman Hush is that a new enemy called Hush shows up. He's this guy kind of covered like advantages and stuff, and he seems to know like everything about Batman. Like, he seems to know about his, secret identity. He seems to know about the people he's close to, that sort of thing. And so, basically, under Hush's direction, a bunch of different, villains from Batman's rogue gallery, they start kind of, coming after him. And I guess it's about him basically dealing with this enemy that knows who he is commanding all of the other villains to, come after him. And at the same time, there's, this, side story about Batman. He starts, a relationship with Catwoman. And so, it's about Batman, his relationship with Catwoman. He's trying to decide if he should open up to her and tell her that he's Bruce Wayne, that sort of thing. At the same time, he's dealing with this, enemy that knows who he is and, is attacking, people close to him. And like I said, it's a good idea in theory, but I just feel like the animated film, I don't know, I feel like it just didn't pull it off as well as it could. It feels like you kind of just go from one thing to another, plot points are kind of stitched together, Like, even the relationship between Batman and Catwoman, I feel like it starts kind of randomly, where it's just like, 1 second she had, stolen from him, then the next time that he meets her, she's like, no, I'm not under, Poison Ivy's spell or whatever, and she kisses him, and they start a relationship. And it just felt, really random, And that's kind of the problem. I feel like the animated film, it just kind of goes from one scene to another. It feels like everything's kind of stitched together. I feel like that's kind of the problem with some of these movies, that when they try to adapt a certain storyline from the comics, it feels like they need to find a way to make it work. And so they kind of just stitch things together and add random filler scenes and that sort of thing. So the movie isn't terrible. It's definitely better than something like Batman Ninja, which in my opinion really failed at what it was trying to do. But, it was fine. It did have some interesting aspects. It did have some interesting things. Seeing Batman and Catwoman running around as, a superhero vigilante, partnership. That was kind of interesting. Seeing some of the villains come after Batman. That was kind of cool. Until the reveal of who Hush is under the disguise. I didn't like the reveal itself, but I do think that the concept of Hush, I think that was really interesting. So in the end, do I recommend it? Not highly, I would say the movie's pretty mediocre, but if in the past you've enjoyed the animated movies and you're curious about it, I'd say go ahead. There might be some things that you find enjoyable about it, but yeah, in the end, wouldn't really recommend it too highly. I just thought it was a little too stitched together and it ran kind of awkwardly, but if it sounds interesting to you, check it out, I guess no harm done, but there you go. Alrighty, moving on, another movie that I watched this one I watched a few weeks ago, but I didn't really want to talk about it on the podcast because I want to do a review about it, but I watched a movie called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and directed by Quentin Tarantino. It's his 9th film, and I'm not going to talk about it too much because you can go ahead over to my channel and look at the review, but overall, all I want to say is that I really enjoyed the movie. I think that the acting was really good. I thought that the way that it serves as a love letter to the 1960s and really gives you nostalgia for the era, I thought that was really good. I thought that the way it kind of puts together reality with fiction, I thought that was actually handled in a really interesting way. I enjoyed that it was just a very laid back, really chill movie, compared to all the other blockbusters out here that are all about action and explosions and that sort of thing. I thought that just having a movie about the everyday lives of, Hollywood actors and stuff, just going on set, coming home, that sort of thing, I thought that was really enjoyable. And yeah, I just really liked the movie overall. If you want more specific details, like I said, you're welcome to head over and watch my review over on my channel. But overall, I just really enjoyed the movie. I really liked it. And yeah, that's all I really want to say. But, if you like Quentin Tarantino movies, I think you'll enjoy it. So there you go. Alrighty, finally, the last thing that I did this week, I actually put Astral Chain on hold because I wanted to check out this game that I'm about to talk about, and that game was River City Girls. And similar to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, there is a review coming soon, hopefully either like on Monday or like Wednesday, after this podcast goes up. But all I want to say is that I had been really excited ever since I heard about this game. It's made by Way Forward, who has made stuff like DuckTales Remastered, Mighty Switch Force, and of course the Shantae series, which is like one of my favorite ever. So I had high hopes going in, and I'm happy to say that my high hopes, my expectations were basically met. There was some issues with the game, such as the ending. I thought the ending was really bad because, I don't know, they tried to do this twist ending in order to make a meta joke that I think doesn't work very well at all. I kind of hated the ending, but everything else about the game is really fun. The combat is fun, the characters are fun, the music's really good, visuals are really top notch. I like all the little details, like the cameos by people from the series, seeing the characters from the Kunio-kun series and characters from Double Dragon, seeing them make cameos. I thought that was really fun. I think it's really fun that the two girls you play as, they're the girlfriends of the usual protagonists of the series, Kunio and Riki. And so the two girls, they're the girlfriends of these two guys, and they're trying to rescue them because they're kidnapped. I think it's kind of funny how they're very different personality-wise. One's this tomboy with short hair, and she's more about slow, heavy punches, and the other one's this girly girl that's more about she's faster and she's all about kicks and dives and stuff. And I think it's funny how if you look at certain details as you're playing, I think it's really interesting how they really show you their different personalities. I know when you're buying stuff, the one who's more of a tomboy, she has a wallet that just looks like it has a little pattern on it. It's just very it's cool, but it's very punkish. But then if you look at the wallet of the girl who's more girly, her wallet I think has a rainbow and a bunny on it, I want to say. So I don't know, just keeping an eye out for little details like that where you kind of see their different personality. I thought that was really fun. So overall, I really enjoyed the game. I think it's a ton of fun. I think especially if you can get a second player, to play co-op with you, I think it's a really good time. But yeah, unfortunately, that ending kind of, it basically brings it a whole letter grade down for me. I would say it makes it from an A- for me to a B-, unfortunately. But still, that's just me. Maybe other people who play it, maybe they won't even care about the story or whatever. And overall, if you do ignore the story part of it, the gameplay and all the details and stuff and the music and the visuals, they are really good. So I do recommend the game. I do think it's a whole lot of fun. So as I said, there will be a more in-depth review coming sometime early this week, after the podcast goes up. So if you're interested, either wait around for my review or check out the game for yourself, so there you go. Alrighty guys, and with that being said, that brings me to the end of my week. Hopefully you guys enjoyed hearing about it. Personally, I'm really proud of finally getting that review for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood out. Like I said, I actually watched that movie the same day I watched Ready or Not. For whatever reason, I just had a little bit of trouble just getting that review out. And I didn't really want to talk about the movie on the podcast until I got that review out, So I was kind of being held back a little bit. But yeah, finally, got that out. Hopefully you guys enjoy the review and me talking about it. And likewise, hopefully you guys enjoyed hearing me talk about all the other stuff. But moving away from that, this week, I feel there was a pretty nice, varied amount of news stories. So, let's switch over to the news. The first news story I want to talk about, if anyone remembers, last week I talked about Kingdom Hearts 3 and how during the Tokyo Game Show, they released a trailer for the DLC. And sure enough, the Tokyo Game Show, there was a lot of trailers. So this first news story, as the title of the article states, Tokyo Game Show 2019 trailer Roundup. And, I'm not going to talk too much about all the trailers because there was quite a few games, and I think it's more of a thing where it's better if you watch them for yourself. But if you follow the link in the description below, basically it's just a page filled with a bunch of different trailers 4 different games. So there was one for Final Fantasy VII Remake. I thought that was really cool. They definitely showed off a bunch of really fun stuff. It looks like that game is definitely coming together. I'm really excited. Once again, there's a trailer for the Kingdom Hearts 3 Remind DLC. There's a trailer for Nioh 2. There was a new trailer for Death Stranding. There was a trailer for a game called Shin Sakura Wars. They shared the opening movie for Persona 5 Royal. Like, that's kind of cool. They showed a trailer for Gungrave Gore. They showed a trailer for Shenmue 3. They showed a couple of trailers for Yakuza 7. They showed, trailers for Project Resistance. They showed a trailer for Mega Man Zero / ZX Legacy Collection. That's like a little collection of Mega Man games coming up. So all of those, I thought they were really interesting. Thing is, though, a lot of them, either there's stuff that I don't really think I'm going to play necessarily, or it's stuff that I already knew about. So it wasn't anything I felt like too special. However, the one I did want to kind of point out that I kind of skipped over really quickly, there's one that caught my attention called AI The Somnium Files. And that one caught my attention because it was a game I hadn't even heard of, and the gameplay just looks really weird. And sure enough, I looked it up, and I was kind of looking at people's comments of like people, I guess, that either they got to the game early or they played like a demo or something like that. And they described it as like a weird like detective game that's also like part Inception, where you go into people's minds. So like that really caught my attention. And I don't know, I think that's a game that's worth keeping an eye out on. I definitely might want to check that game out at some point. And, if it interests you, then same thing, keep an eye out for it. But there you go. Like I said, the whole point of the story was kind of like a bit of a roundup of the different trailers from the Tokyo Game Show 2019. So if any of the games that I listed off sound interesting to you, feel free to follow the link in the description below and look at those trailers. And likewise, if you don't know what any of these games are, but you kind of want to learn more about them, maybe you're looking for something new to play, same thing, check out the trailer, see if anything grabs your attention, and there you go. Alright, moving on. This next news story is an interesting one because it's the kind of news story that nobody quite knows yet what it could mean, but there's like a lot of speculation, So, as the title of the article states, Bandai Namco trademarks Mr. Driller Encore, Klonoa Encore, and other Encore titles in Japan. So, yeah, basically what it seems like this means, like if you read the article, it seems like Bandai Namco, they recently trademarked all of these like titles from the past, but they added that little Encore trademark to them. And people have pointed out that in the past, it says Encore is the subtitle Bandai Namco has given to two recent remasters. The Katamari Damacy remaster, Katamari Damacy Reroll, which launched for Switch and PC in December 2018, is titled Katamari Damacy Encore in Japan. And then likewise, it seems like they did it with some game called Kotoba no Puzzle Moji Piton or something like that. I don't know what at all that is. But I guess what people are saying is that in the past, in Japan, when they've done these like remaster, re-release things, in Japan they add the Encore title. So people are excited because they're hoping that means that we're going to get some remasters. And, some of the titles that are on there, like I said, there's Mr. Driller, there's Klonoa, there's Splatterhouse, there's a few titles that I don't really recognize because they're like in Japanese or whatever. Like one is called Genpai Toma Den Encore, the other one's called Wagyan Land Encore. I don't know what those games are at all. But yeah, I think it's kind of exciting because I do enjoy the Splatterhouse franchise. Like, it is kind of difficult, but I do kind of like the aesthetic of, like, running around and you're, like, this crazy masked guy just, like, killing everything in his path. I think it's an interesting little series. And I do really like Klonoa. I played the Klonoa game on the Wii. I didn't beat it, but I did play like a good chunk of it, and I thought that was like a nice little series, So seeing that some of these games are getting, hopefully like a remaster / re-release sort of thing, I think that's really exciting. So, I don't know, if you have any love for any of these series that I mentioned, and if you're excited to see them, kind of come back to life, then, maybe this will help kind of launch them back into existence or whatever, then yeah, keep an eye out for this and stay excited. Hopefully we'll get some of these remasters, coming up soon. So there you go. Finally, my last video game news story. Usually I don't like to talk about every single, new Pokemon release. Because, as, Pokemon Sun and Moon, ever since it got announced, every, week or so, they do talk about different things for, the games. And they have talked about different, Pokemon reveals. But I haven't really wanted to talk about them because, I don't know, I feel like it's just kind of, either I can summarize it all when there's, a big trailer, or, I don't know, you can kind of see them for yourselves. It's fine. However, this next news story, even though I don't really like to talk about every time that we get a reveal, this one felt a little different because it just felt a little more, important, if that makes sense. Basically what I'm talking about, as the title of the article states, Sirfetch'd is the mysterious Pokemon Sword and Shield character. Now, for anyone who has ever played Gen 1 of Pokemon, you might remember that there's this weird little, like, brown bird guy carrying, like, a leek, you know, using it kind of like as a weapon, and his name was Farfetch'd. And honestly, I think Farfetch'd is kind of a dumb design. During episode 45 of my podcast, you know, when I had Sheriffic on, if you remember, I even mentioned that, you know, when people try to, like, trash all over, like, newer Pokemon designs, I think that Farfetch'd is a good example of a design that's just really boring and, like, really basic. And so, like I said, all of this basically ties into this news story, because Farfetch'd, who for the longest time was just a little brown bird carrying a leek, he finally has an evolution. And as I mentioned earlier, the evolution is called Sirfetch'd, and it's this white, smug-looking bird who has, like, a crazy-looking, like, leek lance and, like, some sort of a big shield. And I don't know, I mean, it's definitely weird looking, but I actually kind of like it. Like, I think it actually looks kind of cool. Like, I enjoy the fact that he looks smug. I think the design of, you know, him evolving from, like, a guy with a little stick to this huge, like, lance, I think that's really cool. And not only that, but it says that he's going to be found only in Pokemon Sword. And since I was already planning to get Pokemon Sword, you know, over Shield, like, I think Sword looks cooler. Hearing that he's going to be in the game that I plan to get anyway, like, that's really cool. And yeah, let me see if there's anything else I can read about. It says, Sirfetch'd is a fighting-type Pokemon who has the Steadfast ability. This means if the Pokemon flinches as a result of an opponent's move, then their speed stat will increase by 1 stage. Then it says, it is noted that this wild duck Pokemon will evolve after experiencing many battles. Its signature move is a new attack called Meteor Assault. It says only it can use this attack. So, I don't know, I mean, I think it's shaping up to sound like an interesting little Pokemon. I think it looks cool. It sounds like it has a cool move that only it knows how to do. And, I don't know, that ability's fine, I guess, you know. Like, I do kind of hate when, sometimes you get attacked and your Pokemon flinches and you just lose a turn. So the fact that you flinch and you at least gain, some speed, I mean, that's kind of cool, I guess. So, yeah, you know, I would say, you know, check it out, Google it, or, you know, look at the link in the description below. They kind of have like a little trailer for it, they have some screenshots and stuff, but I don't know. I'm excited for it. I think Sirfetch'd sounds really cool, and I'm definitely excited to check him out. So, there you go. Alrighty, moving on to movie news. My first news story, it's kind of like the Face Off reboot story from last week, where it's just kind of like the kind of news that just kind of makes you go, like, why? You know, like, why are people, especially studios, why are they so hell-bent on, like, rebooting / remaking everything, you know? But as the title of the article states, a lot of famous people want to remake The Princess Bride. So for those of you who don't know, and I mean, if you don't know about this movie, I kind of feel like you've been living under a rock, but The Princess Bride is this 1980s movie that, like, it's definitely a really fun movie. And it definitely comes together really good, but I will admit there is some stuff about it that's kind of, I don't know, maybe it's of the time, or maybe it's just kind of like corny, like, I don't know. But like, it's the kind of thing where I wouldn't say it's a perfect movie, but I just feel like it comes together so well. Basically, The Princess Bride, there's this girl, you know, her name is Buttercup. I mean, that's what I mean, like, it's just kind of corny. Her name is Buttercup, and she falls in love with this guy called Wesley, and Wesley, you know, he leaves, I think, to, like, find his fortune or something, and I guess she thinks that he, like, dies or something, and, like, meanwhile, she gets, like, kidnapped. I mean, I'm trying to remember, because it's been a while since I watched it, but I think she gets, like, kidnapped, and then this guy calling himself, like, the Dread Pirate Roberts, he comes back, and he rescues her, and she kind of finds out that it was Wesley under the mask, and it's all about them being in love, and trying to fight off these, like, pursuers and stuff, and there's like, it's like a whole fantasy story, you know, there's like a lot of stuff going on. We got like a really awesome performance by like Andre the Giant, and there's this guy, he says, you know, inconceivable, and I don't know, it's like a really good movie, lots of good catchphrases. Basically the whole thing, the setup is that it's actually a fairy tale being told by a grandfather to his grandson, and the grandson is Fred Savage, which, you know, he's been in a bunch of stuff. And, like, I don't know, I guess it has been a bit since I watched it, so I don't remember all the details, but I do remember that it's, like, this really fun fairy tale story that has, you know, has, like, romance, has comedy, has action, has lots of, like, good one-liners, that sort of thing. And like I said, it's not a perfect movie, but it just comes together so well. And yeah, apparently it sucks, because just like everything else, they're trying to make a remake of it. And so far, we don't really know who's trying to remake it, but it's kind of funny because, like, as it says in the article, Sony Pictures Entertainment CEO, Tony, I think his name is Vince Sequeira or something like that. Apparently he told Variety, which is I think like a newspaper or like a website or something, very famous people whose names I won't use want to redo The Princess Bride. And so, yeah, I mean, I find it kind of funny because he don't want to say their names. I think he's kind of trying to protect them so they don't get, like, trashed on that badly. But, yeah, I mean, we don't know who's trying to remake it yet. We don't know how close they are, like, script-wise or anything. But, I don't know. That aside, hopefully, like a lot of stuff out there, hopefully plans, fall through. But in the meantime, if you end up hearing about a Princess Bride remake, don't be too surprised. This is like your first, warning to it. So, I don't know, cross your fingers. Let's hope that doesn't get made. But if it does, then, I'm giving the story, so at least it doesn't catch you by total surprise. So, there you go. Moving on, this next news story, I don't know, I just thought it was a really interesting one because it's something that I guess I do, believe in, you know what I mean? As the title of the article states, Keanu Reeves and James Cameron starring in movie Stunts documentary. Basically, the basis of the movie is that they're really trying to put the spotlight on, stunt men and women because, stunt people, they have a huge job. A lot of actors don't do their own stunts. They're either too afraid or, it's too dangerous or whatever. And stunt people come in and they do a job that is so, underrated. They do the stunts. They do the crazy stuff that makes a lot of movies, worth seeing. And yeah, it says right here that the movie's gonna be called Second Unit Invisible Action Stars. And I guess what I was trying to say is that even though James Cameron and Keanu Reeves, even though they're not directors or producers on this from what I can see, even though, they're just one of several people that are gonna come out in the movie, it seems like it's gonna be interesting because it has to do with, like I said, putting, the spotlight on stunt workers, showing why they're so important. And yeah, I mean, if you read through it, it says that for years, they've been wanting to add a Best Stunt Work award to the Oscars, and it's something that they've never really done, and it's something that people feel is just as important as, Best Screenplay or Best Cinematography, stuff like that. And so yeah, I guess that, James Cameron, who's done a lot of movies involving stunts, I mean, think of The Terminator and Avatar and all that sort of stuff, and Keanu Reeves, who's done stuff like The Matrix and John Wick and stuff, they recognize how important stunt workers are, and so, basically they're lending themselves to this project. And like I said, I think that's really cool. I think that stunt workers are definitely important. I think that what they do is really cool, really dangerous, and I do think they are really underrated. So I don't know, I hope that the movie does well. I hope the movie's good. I hope that, hopefully it puts stunt workers in the spotlight and then it makes people appreciate how important they are, and that hopefully they do get more recognition and stuff. So, if you want to read about the project yourself, link is in the description below. But as I said, the movie is going to be called Second Unit Invisible Action Stars. And I don't know, hopefully it's an interesting, thought-provoking movie about stunt workers. Because like I said, I think they do deserve more respect. So check it out, keep an eye out for it. There you go. Alrighty, transferring over to, I guess you'd call it TV news. As the title of the article states, the Boondocks revival gets 2-season order at HBO Max. So I think it's kind of funny because I want to say, I feel like I have definitely mentioned the Boondocks on the podcast. I think I mentioned it, I'm not going to remember exactly when I've mentioned it, but I know I have talked about it and given it, some praise because I do think it's kind of interesting how it's not technically what people would consider an anime because it is made in America and it's, has nothing to do with Japan, but it is very heavily influenced by anime. I mean, the art style is there. A lot of the action is very over the top and anime-esque and stuff. But yeah, I mean, the Boondocks is one of those shows heavily influenced by anime. I mean, I honestly would say I consider it an anime. I mean, why not? And yeah, it's one of those shows that unfortunately, I don't remember if it was 2 seasons and then for the third one he didn't come back, or if it was 3 seasons and then for the fourth one he didn't come back. But it was something like that where it had some successful seasons, and then unfortunately the guy who makes the comic book, he was kind of a supervisor on the show, and he's the one who really gave direction on the series. And yeah, unfortunately he didn't come back for the last season, and although the season was fine, it did feel a little like disjointed. It didn't have like the same soul to it. But yeah, it seems like the show is finally coming back. It's gonna be on HBO. It's not gonna just have 2 new seasons and a 50-minute special, but it looks like they're also gonna like air all of the like original like episodes and stuff. So like that's pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, that makes me happy. I love the show. I think it's really cool. I think like it's satire and like it's humor and stuff. It's definitely not for everybody, but I really always appreciated like what it had to say, because at the end of the day, I do feel like it had something to say, like in its own like satirical, like kind of edgy way, But hearing the show's coming back, I think that's awesome. I'm excited to see what the creator of the show wants to talk about, because, since the show's been off the air, like the United States and just the world at large has gone through some really big changes. So seeing what he wants to like satirize and like poke fun at, I think that's going to be very interesting. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm trying to see if it says when the show might be coming back. I'm quickly scanning through it, but I don't see anything. Looking real quick. Yeah, I don't see anything of when it's coming out, but it does say it's going to come out on HBO Max, which I know is going to be, I think, like this streaming service coming out. So I guess when the streaming service launches, I think that's when the Boondocks is going to launch on there too. But like I said, I look forward to it. I think the Boondocks is a really like funny, really like it has something to say, I'm excited to see like what it has to say. So I'm looking forward to that. And likewise, I don't know how many of you enjoy the show, but if you enjoyed the Boondocks in the past, good news, it's coming back. And good news, the original creator is attached to the project. So, there you go. Look forward to it. Alrighty, moving on to my final news story for this week. This one is an interesting one, because, I don't know, just seeing people's reaction to it has been really funny, and a lot of people almost, like, can't believe it, and they all have, like, the same reaction, which I think is really funny. What I'm talking about, as the title of the article states, 22 years till victory, Pokemon's Ash finally wins big. So, for anyone who doesn't know, the Pokemon anime, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of weird if there's anyone out there who doesn't know about the Pokemon anime, but I guess, either for someone who doesn't know about it, or those of you who only watch like the first few seasons and haven't really kept up with it. The Pokemon anime has been going, as it says right there, for like 22 years. Basically, Ash Ketchum, he's the protagonist of the series. He's this 10-year-old who, he's supposed to be similar to Red from the first game, but he's kind of like his own thing where, he has a Pikachu as a starter, and he's like more, he's more of like a rookie trainer, and he dresses different, that sort of thing. And as the years have gone by, Ash goes to different regions. And usually every region he goes to, he kind of, the people who like follow along as like his as like his friends on his journey, he kind of like shuffles them in and out for different people. I know he traveled with like Brock and Misty, which is probably the one that people are most familiar with. Then he switched to like a girl named May, which is like, from the Pokemon Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald games. Then he had a follower named Dawn. Then later, he had totally new followers. One of them was, I don't even remember. I'm not going to go too in depth into it. But the point is, he switches around his journey companions, and he goes to different regions, and he has like different Pokemon, that sort of thing. And even though he's entered the championship tournament for every region, he had never won one. Or at least not officially, because I think he did win one, but it was non-canon. But like it says right here, Kanto, top 16. Johto, top 8. Hoenn, top 8. Sinnoh, top 4. Unova, top 8. Kalos, top 2. And finally, in Alola, which is supposed to be like the new region based off of Hawaii, he finally got first place. And it's funny because, like I said, people have been reacting where they're like, what? He actually won, but he never wins. And other people, they've been making memes about how he finally won, and he's finally free of his curse, that sort of thing. So, I don't know, it's definitely like an interesting choice to finally have him win. However, though, the sad part is that even though our protagonist of the anime finally won a championship, the sad part is that, as a lot of people have been pointing out, he won a championship finally, and he is like the one that he's like least deserved to win. Not only was there like some really like borderline cheating going on, but it's kind of sad that he only won by going to a totally new region where this is the first year they have the tournament, and it's full of like a bunch of rookies. You know, like that's kind of sad because the competition isn't like established, you know? So I don't know, a lot of people have been pointing out that it is kind of sad that the moment Ash Ketchum wins a championship, it is one that like his win isn't that great, you know? That's kind of sad. But that aside, you know, I guess congratulations to Ash. He finally won a championship. A lot of people are wondering what's going to happen though, because if you do look for information about the upcoming anime for Pokemon Sword and Shield, it looks like Ash might not be coming out anymore. So people are finding it kind of awkward. Like they're like, could it be they finally gave him a win? That way they can get rid of him from the series? Which, if so, that's kind of sad because we've been following Ash this whole time. And we've been following along with his dream of how he wants to be a Pokemon master. And like the fact that he wins one championship and then we never hear from him again, that would be kind of depressing because it's like, are you telling me that's where he peaks, you know? That's kind of far from Pokemon Master. But I don't know. At the moment, it's just speculation. But it will be kind of sad if we drop him as a protagonist after one win. That would be kind of sad. But only time will tell, you know? Overall, like I said, happy for Ash. Glad he finally won a championship, you know? That's nice. And if they do decide to go with different protagonists for the next Pokemon season, at the same time, you know, I'm not even complaining. Because I do feel like that's kind of what they should have done up to now. I think if they had switched the protagonist every season, that would have been really interesting. So if they do it now, you know, I guess better than late than never, but like I said, a lot of it's just speculation, but, you know, there you go. In case you were wondering what's up with the Pokemon anime, it is still going, and Ash finally won. So there you go. Alrighty guys, and with that being said, that brings me to the end of the news week. As usual, hopefully there's something you guys found entertaining, educational, informative, that sort of thing. And yeah, you know, I thought that the news was really varied this week. I feel like that we had a little bit of everything. So, I don't know. I was excited to share the news. Hopefully you guys enjoy the news stories as much as I did. I think there was like some good stuff in there. And like I said, if you're interested, links are in the description. So, you know, you guys can check all this stuff out for yourselves. With that being said, I think it is time that we move on to the final segment of the podcast, which is the Content Creator Spotlight. And this week, my content creator is someone that I haven't been following for too long, but still, I think they have like an interesting thing going on. I do think it's kind of, you know, it's something that not a lot of people do, you know, so I just thought I would give them a shout out. Basically, the person I'm talking about, of course, is a little channel called The Haunted Library. And the Haunted Library, basically it's run by this guy that his name is Michael, and you know, I'm gonna kind of read from his description, but as it says right here: hello and welcome to my haunted audio library of thrills and chills. I'm Michael. I'm a former author of 3 horror novels. I write my own stories, edit the stories, and then I voice them. While primarily fictional stories will be narrated here, true events will also be voiced from time to time as well. This is not a creepypasta channel. These stories develop a character, have a small plot, and move in the way that a book would, focusing on traditional, believable styled horror/dark fantasy. So, I gotta admit, the line about this not being like creepypasta, that part does kind of confuse me, because creepypasta can easily have character and plot and all that. So I don't know if maybe he's just had like a weird experience with creepypasta, you know, but that aside though, yeah, as I read, his name is Michael. He is a former horror novel author, and yeah, so what he does on his channel is that like every day or two, you know, like every day, maybe every other day, he uploads like short clips of different short stories. And so, you know, just kind of going from like the newest backwards a little bit. For instance, the last story that he narrated for us was called The Carnival. I really enjoyed that one. I thought it was really interesting with like the whole carnival setting, which I do think carnivals can be really creepy, and the way he kind of set up the story for us, I really enjoyed it. Before that, he had like a 3-part series called The Rainwater Killer, and that was like a really interesting little story. It's been, you know, like if you follow along, you do get really invested in it. Before that, he had The Long Walk Home, Pine Haven Cabin, which I thought that one was really interesting, Keep Walking, The Hotel, The Theater, that sort of thing. So as you can see, all of his titles are very, like, they're pretty basic, but I think that's kind of what kind of helps. I kind of like that they're basic because it tells you, like, right off the bat what the story will be about, or like at least where it's like the setting is. And like I said, I just think his stories are really interesting. They're very like well written. They have, you know, as he said, they have interesting characters and like an interesting little plot. Some of them, like the Rainwater Killer, they're like a little series where like everything kind of ties together, which is really cool to follow along with. And I don't know. I mean, even though he says they're not like creepypasta, like I do kind of disagree. I think if you do find the right type of creepypastas, kind of like, you know, like the stuff that maybe like Mr. Creepypasta reads, there are creepypasta out there that have interesting characters and plots and stuff. You know, they're not just like one-off, like dumb, you know, Jeff the Killer things. Like there are really good creepypasta out there. And I would kind of compare these to those, where I think they're very interesting horror stories, you know? But still, you know, whether you want to call them like a very high-end creepypasta, or you want to call them like little horror stories that, you know, a horror novel author is putting online, either way, I think they're really good. I think they're really interesting. I've enjoyed all of his work so far. And like I said, you know, if you are interested in horror novels or like short, scary stories and that sort of thing, I recommend this channel. I think you'll enjoy it. And so yeah, you know, as usual, as I always say, if you end up checking him out, give him some likes, give him some comments, maybe even subscribe if you like his content. And, you know, sure enough, if you check out the Haunted Library, as I always say, give him some love. And if you do, tell him the Wannabe reviewer sent you. So there you go. Alrighty guys, and with that being said, that brings us to the end of another podcast. That is one more in the bag. And yeah, hopefully, as usual, you guys enjoyed the podcast. Whether it was me introducing you to the Haunted Library, whether it was me talking about the different news stories, or it was me, you know, talking about stuff I did during the week. Hopefully there's something you guys got out of it, and, you know, something that made the podcast worth listening to you. To wrap up, you know, my name is the Wannabe Reviewer. I'm the host of the Wannabe Podcast, available on all sorts of platforms. And besides that, you can find me over on Twitter, you can find me over on Instagram, and you can find me over on Twitch. As for those last two, it has been a while since I posted to them. I'm gonna try to get on top of that, but as I've said, you know, I'm just always so busy with consuming media during the week and working on stuff, that sort of thing. But hopefully, you know, hopefully I'm able to like post to those two websites. And yeah, I'm trying to like in the background work on different things. I'm gonna see if I can get any content out for like October. I think that would be really fun. And as I mentioned, there should be a review for River City Girls coming out either like on Monday or Wednesday. Look forward to that. And besides that, you know, not really much else to say. I will try my hardest to be back here next week for episode 48. As I said, it should be the 1-year anniversary of the podcast, so I'll see if I do, you know, something to celebrate. I think that'd be fun. And with that being said, my name has been Wannabe Reviewer. Hopefully you guys have a wonderful week, and I will see you guys next time.
Sweeties who will fill your life with joy. Some girls will break your heart, leave you crying on the street, destroyed. But I don't like those girls. Don't need them in my world. I need a special girl you don't find every day. I don't need an overachiever. Right now, bad girls are just bad news. What I'm looking for is a special class of girl can kick my ass. I need myself a River City girl. Last night I took my boo on a nice romantic date, and I went to pay the check, and she cracked my skull with a pasta plate. Said I don't mean no harm, and then she broke my arm, and that's the kind of charm that I appreciate. I've always got a concussion, not for a day. My spine's been fractured 6 times. The fastest way to this boy's heart is to take me down with martial arts.